Senator, good to see you.
It's good to be with you.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Yeah.
You won Iowa by a historic margin. You spent less than most candidates and came in third in New Hampshire.
Yep.
And there's a poll out this morning that shows you're within 5 points of taking South Carolina. From your perspective, tell us about the state of the race. Well,
listen, I think people of South Carolina, they want a conservative as our next president. And you know, Iowa was interesting, as you recall. The week before Iowa, every pundit, every pollster said we couldn't win. I remember watching your show Sunday night.
By the way, he's not talking about me.
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
But Sean had 6 experts on. And they went down 2 panels and they said, who's going to win? And it was Trump, 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 Trump.
You're right.
And now, you had the wisdom not to chime in on that, but everyone else did.
Thank you for saving me from this crowd.
But the next day, when the results came in, it was extraordinary what we saw in Iowa. We saw, number one, record-shattering turnout. But number two, not only did we win by a big margin, but we won conservatives, we won evangelicals, we won Reagan Democrats, and we won young people. It was that old Reagan coalition. We ended up getting more votes than any Republican in the history of the Iowa caucus.
By far. Yeah, by far. You know, before you came out, Senator, I was talking to this crowd, and I hope I speak for you, but I'm worried more than I've ever been in my adult life that we're losing the American dream.
Yeah.
We have nearly 95 million Americans out of the labor force. It's not been that high since the 1970s. 50 million Americans in poverty, millions more than when Obama took the presidency. 46 million Americans on food stamps. I think people of South Carolina, I know you hear a lot about the horse race and you see negative ads. You can clap if you want. Do you care about those Americans more than these ads, and you want to get these Americans back to work? And so how do we do that, and how quickly can it happen? What is the prescription to...
Well, look, the stakes are the same. Sean, you and I are both parents. We love our kids, and we're scared. You know, I mean, you've gotten to meet my girls, Caroline and Catherine. They're 7 and 5. Thank God they look like their mother. But, you know, I wake up every day scared for what kind of world those girls are inheriting.
Yeah.
If we keep doing what we're doing, we are risking losing the greatest country in the history of the world. We're seeing our constitutional rights stripped away. We're seeing economic opportunities stripped away. 65% of Americans believe that our kids will have a worse life than we did.
That's scary. That's never happened before, brother.
In the history of this country, it may be the most un-American idea you can imagine. And what gets me out of bed every morning, what makes me leap out of bed every morning, is what all of us are doing is we are fighting to get back to the principles that built America, the free market principles and the constitutional liberties.
I told the audience beforehand that this is not another cable channel. They're free to clap whenever they want, okay? How do we get there? I think that we've got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You have a plan to get Americans out of poverty and back in the labor force. Tell us how we get there and how fast.
Well, look, cause and effect matters. You know, I'll say it is easy to say, make America great again. That's easy to say. You can even put it on a baseball cap. But the question is, do you understand what it was that made America great in the first place? And what made this country great is, number one, we began with the understanding, it was a revolutionary understanding, that our rights don't come from government. Instead, the Declaration put it, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator.
It's all true.
That notion, that understanding, that our unalienable rights, the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, they don't come from government, they don't come from a king or queen, they certainly don't come from President Obama. That was a revolutionary idea. And our constitutional liberties, free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment. Those are fundamental rights, and with Justice Scalia's passing, every one of those is in jeopardy right now.
Let me ask this. I think this is really important. President Obama, when he leaves office, will double the debt or accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined. Talk about the plan that is going to get us in a better position back to those principles.
So the only thing strong enough to turn around the debt is economic growth. Economic growth is my #1 priority. It's my #1 priority as senator. It'll be my #1 priority as president, because economic growth is foundational to everything else. Without growth, we can't solve any of these problems, whether it's unemployment, the debt, rebuilding the military, restoring and strengthening Social Security and Medicare. And the keys to growth, if you look back, if you understand how America became who we are today, the keys to growth are tax reform and regulatory reform. Every time government does what it's doing now, hammers small businesses, we get what we got now, which is misery and stagnation and malaise. Small businesses are the heart of the economy. And so... And so the two key pillars of my economic plan are regulatory reform and tax reform. Regulatory reform, the most important regulatory reform. We are going to repeal every single word of Obamacare.
Good. I think they agree with you.
And then tax reform, real quick, Sean. Tax reform, we are going to pass a simple flat tax and abolish the IRS.
How important, because I agree with you about Obamacare, I've always liked the flat tax. I think it's a great idea. I also like the fair tax and fairness. I want to ask you...
And I'm a big fair tax fan as well.
How many years would it take for America to be energy independent? I know this is a big part of your platform. Wouldn't that create jobs and...
Millions of high-paying jobs. When it comes to energy, we ought to pursue all of the above. We ought to pursue oil and gas and coal and nuclear and wind and solar and ethanol and biofuels, everything. But Washington shouldn't be picking winners and losers.
Now, you did take a very courageous position on the issue of ethanol in Iowa, and some people thought it was going to hurt you, didn't it?
Well, I'll tell you, Sean, it was extraordinary. I mean, I was the only candidate that went there and campaigned foursquare against the ethanol mandate. And I got to tell you...
5 years done.
Everyone said that was political suicide. I mean, that's like campaigning in South Carolina on a mandate that South Carolinians all have to wear New York Yankees jerseys. I'm not doing that, by the way. That is not my position. Although I'm told it is Trump's position. But look, everyone said this is suicide. And in fact, my two leading opponents, Trump and Marco Rubio, both attacked me and promised more corporate welfare, more cronyism. In fact, one of them, Donald, said not only would he continue it, he would expand the ethanol mandate to have even more cronyism. And then the sitting governor of Iowa, a Republican, openly came out against me, said to the people of Iowa, vote for anybody but Cruz. The other guys, they'll keep the cronyism going. This guy actually believes this stuff, and he will end the picking winners and losers.
Yeah. We have a lot to get to. We're going to talk about immigration. We've got to talk about how to defeat ISIS.
Yeah.
We have a lot on our agenda tonight. We have a few special guests, though. And you just got, moments before we came out on the stage here, a big endorsement. Somebody well known in the great state of South Carolina. Former governor of the state. We'll invite him out. Governor Mark Sanford is here. So. There he is. All right, my only question is simple. I think you have a few fans here. You just came out and endorsed Senator Cruz. Tell us why.
Real simple. The things you were just talking about a moment ago, which is that the Constitution matters, and too much of what we've seen in this race. I watched a special last night on CNN. I shouldn't mention that station. I'm sorry. Yeah. But anyway, it just struck me that it's gotten out of bounds. When you have folks criticizing this guy for what he said on spending, when you have folks saying it doesn't matter what, what the Constitution says, it matters what I think. Yeah. The beauty of the Constitution is it matters not what one of us thinks. It matters what the Constitution prescribes. And it's my strong belief, Sean, that if you won't say it in Iowa, you're not saying it in Washington. And so what struck me about Ted is the fact that he had come out against those ethanol subsidies. I fought against spending my entire time in politics, and all too few people will. You look at this room full of folks, these are fighters right here. We need another fighter in Washington in the Oval Office on that very front. So that'd be the short version. I could give you much more.
Yeah, you can. Governor Mark Sanford, thank you. All right. I feel like we should do a game show because we have our next surprise guest. You've heard of the popular TV show Duck Dynasty? Let's give a warm South Carolina welcome straight from West Monroe, Louisiana, the patriarch of the Robertson family, Phil Robertson.
Hannity, some little chick back there said, Mr. Robertson, we need to go to hair and makeup. I said, Hannity does that kind of stuff, not me. Get out of my face.
Tell us, I'll let you move you in a little closer for a TV shot here, but tell us, you have come out strongly for Ted Cruz. You even put him in camo, which made a lot of news. Tell us why you support him.
Sometimes it's better to be a little harder to see than at other times. I'm for Cruz because you see this in my hand? South Carolina. Bibles and guns brought us here. And there will be Bibles and guns that keeps us here, and this man believes in both.
Phil Robertson, thank you, sir. All right, we've got one more surprise for you, and then I got to take a break. Y'all listen to the radio? How many radio listeners we have here? A lot? You can clap. People at home can't see. All right. There's a guy that's on before me. You might have heard of him. His name is Rush Limbaugh. Okay. His brother is a New York Times best-selling author and columnist. A warm South Carolina for Mr. David Limbaugh. And I'm asking you the same. You have come out, you've endorsed the senator. Tell us.
I was prescient. I did this quite a while ago. America is at a crossroads. We face multiple existential threats. It is no exaggeration. We're on the brink of collapse. We have maybe one last chance to save America, my 5 kids, the future, so they can live in liberty and prosperity like our parents did and like we have. We have one solution for this, one remedy, and that is to restore America's founding principles, the timeless constitutional principles. There are some good other candidates running, but there is only one authentic, strong, constitutionalist, Reagan conservative across the board, the closest thing we've had to Ronald Reagan in my lifetime, the most brilliant guy I've ever met in this arena. And there's another thing about him. Not only is he an authentic believer in America's constitutional principles and founding principles, he has demonstrated that he will do what he has always promised to do. When he gets in office, he fulfills his promises. This is our last best chance. We have to take it.
All right, Mr. David Limbaugh.